Hello everybody, doing a little bit more work on my Ford-A-Hoe today. I've got the wrist linkage here. I'm doing a little bit of work on this. I'm installing some bushings, some bronze bushings, because I don't know if this used to have bushings that disappeared because they're all worn to hell or what, but there's quite a bit of play in the linkage and I wanted to get rid of that. So I got these bronze bushings from McMaster. Just a common part, solid bronze, not the sintered, pre-lubricated ones, because those aren't as strong. This is just a solid piece of bronze. It's much more durable. Anyway, so I'm going to install it in here. As you can see, the problem is that it just slides right in by hand because this hole's worn out, and also the pin that's going to be sliding through it is also worn out, and that's not going to be a press fit either. So this bushing is going to spin around on its own. So my first thought of what to do was to drill a hole, put a set screw in, just like I did with the swing bushings on the backhoe frame to prevent these bushings from moving. But that's a lot of work. That's 2 holes that I got to drill and tap and everything. It's just extra work. And I think these bushings are going to pound themselves apart anyway because there's a fair amount of play in them. So what I thought I was going to do, firstly there's no grease fitting in here. There's a grease fitting for the rod end that goes in the middle here. There's no grease fittings on either side. So what I'm going to do is drill and tap a hole on each one of these pieces for a grease fitting. And then on the bushing itself, I'm going to drill a hole right in the middle to align with the grease zerk hole. And then I'm going to take my Dremel and grind a slot all the way around the outside and a slot all the way around the inside in line with the grease zerk hole. So no matter where the bushing rotates, those 2 grooves, the inner and outer groove, in combination with the hole, will always be able to deliver grease to the outside and the inside of this bushing. And I think that'll help it along quite a bit. It may not be perfect, it might not be very kosher, but I think it's my best and easiest option. And for something like this that's just clapped out, unless you want to machine this and sleeve it and everything, it's really just not worth it. So I think this is the best option. So the link bar is all done. I drilled 2 holes for some zerks. So I happened to find some nice right angle ones. So those will be really nice because this is going to be on the inside towards the boom, so therefore they're protected and they're not going to get hit by anything when I'm digging. And also I put a zerk in here for this pin because there was a hole but there was no zerk, that was gone, so I found a zerk and I put that in there. Started work on the bearings, or the bushings. The holes were had to be slightly off center because there's a weld right here. I didn't want to be drilling through a weld, so I off-centered them. I drilled through both sides. Figured that would help grease distribution. Okay, so I used this cutting wheel on my Dremel and I ground a groove around the outside and a groove through the inside. And that should be perfectly sufficient to transfer the grease around. I didn't go too deep because this is only 1/8 inch thick, I think, so I didn't want to keep grinding and end up with 2 bearings where I should have had 1, so I kept the groove kind of thin. Okay, so here's the eye on the cylinder. This is going to take the last bushing. As you can see, it is somewhat egg-shaped. Already has a zerk though, which is nice. So you can see it's got a little bit of extra clearance on the top and bottom, which is to be expected since the cylinder pushes and pulls, and that's where it's going to get the most wear. So I'm still going to drill 2 holes through this bushing, but I'm not going to do a groove on the outside of the bushing because there's going to be plenty of grease flow on the outside, but I will do a groove on the inside because it's a much better fit on the ID. Okay, so the last bushing is done. I got the holes drilled and there's a groove on the inside. That'll be going in the piston eye, or the rod rather. So first I've got to install this back in. Drop the pin through. And since it's easily accessible, I'm going to give it a couple shots of grease to start off. Okay, so with that bar on, we'll put the bottom plate up onto the studs, and then put the 2 castle nuts Alright, now with the 2 nuts on, all I got to do is put the 2 cotter pins in through the castle nut slots to lock those in place, and everything's done. I'll give these a couple shots of grease, and we're ready to go. And the next step, which is going to be the next video, I'm going to bring this out to the front yard where there's lots of space, and I'll stretch this out, block it up in places if I need to, and I'll have my neighbor come over with his loader tractor, lift up the frame part of it, and I'll be able to hook my tractor onto it. So as always, thanks for watching everybody, and stay tuned for the next episode. Make sure to leave a comment and subscribe if you haven't already.